The ex who slept with my sister made me walk away. At their wedding, her grin died the moment the powerful man beside me grandly appeared. Can you imagine the ultimate betrayal? The man you're about to marry, the man you've built your life with, caught red-handed with your own sister. But what they thought would break me, what they expected to be my quiet, weeping downfall, instead became my defiant rebirth. And at their wedding, years later, I finally watched their smug smiles crumble the moment the powerful man beside me walked into the room. It all started subtly, like a chill creeping into your bones. My fiancé Elijah had been distant. His messages grew cold, busy with work, can't make dinner, need some space. But I pushed it aside, wedding planning anxiety, I told myself. Then, standing in the boutique in a white satin gown that was supposed to be perfect, something felt profoundly off. Maybe it was the hollow look in my own eyes, or the way my smile just wouldn't reach them. And then Camille, my younger sister, arrived. She always had to be the center, the bold one to my understated, the perfectly highlighted blonde to my simple waves. She sauntered in, designer purse, sunglasses perched, and immediately started tearing down my dress choice. "It's a bit safe, isn't it?" she sneered, then added, "Elijah isn't exactly the marrying kind. He needs to be wowed." A chill ran through me, a premonition I desperately tried to ignore. "What do you mean by that?" I asked. She just shrugged. "Nothing specific, just that he's always struck me as someone who needs excitement." The rest of the appointment was a blur of her critiques, leaving me with a pounding headache and a gnawing dread. 1 week later, Elijah vanished. No calls, no texts, 36 hours of terrifying silence. My anxiety was a physical knot in my stomach as I rushed home. And then I heard it, laughter. Elijah's deep chuckle and her familiar voice. My key suspended midair. The truth, already there, just waiting for me to unlock the door. Slowly I pushed it open. There they were at our kitchen island, wine glasses in hand, heads bent close over glossy brochures. They were planning a trip. Their trip. Camille touched his arm, leaning in, pointing. The Amalfi Coast would be amazing, but what about? She stopped dead when she saw me. For a split second, her smile faltered. Then it was back, full force, with a chilling casualness. "Sarah, you're home early." Elijah straightened, running a hand through his dark hair. "Hey, babe. Camille just stopped by to help with some ideas." "Ideas for what?" My voice, to my own surprise, was calm. A silent, knowing look passed between them. In that moment, the world didn't just collapse, it evaporated. "Sarah," Elijah started, standing. "We need to talk." Camille stayed seated, swirling her wine with practiced nonchalance. "Don't look so shocked, Sarah. You've been drifting apart for months. Everyone's noticed." "Everyone?" I echoed, a tremor finally entering my voice. "It's not like that," Elijah interjected, but his eyes screamed otherwise. "Then what is it like?" Camille sighed dramatically, as if I was the inconvenience. "You shouldn't be shocked. You never challenged him. You were always so comfortable." She said the word like it was a disease. "Some men need more." I looked between them, my fiancé, my sister. The full, disgusting weight of their betrayal pressed down. "How long?" Elijah, at least, had the decency to look away. "Sarah, I'm sorry. 3 months." Camille cut in, but it's been building for longer. These things don't just happen overnight. 3 months. While I'd been picking flowers, tasting cakes, trying on dresses. I expected to scream, to cry, to make the dramatic scene this moment deserved. Instead, I felt oddly calm, like I was floating above my own body, watching it happen to someone else. "I see," I said, picking up my purse. "I'll stay at Julia's tonight. I'll get my things later." "Sarah, wait." Elijah called, but I was already closing the door. That night, my best friend Julia cursed them, offered wine, ice cream, and revenge plots. I took the wine and ice cream, but revenge? I was just numb. The next day, I went to my parents, hoping for comfort, for outrage on my behalf. Instead, I got careful neutrality. "These things happen, honey," my mother said, patting my hand. "Remember when Camille would take your toys? You never fought back then, either." "This isn't about a stolen doll, Mom. It's my fiancé." My father cleared his throat. "Camille has always been the passionate one. Maybe they were just meant to be." I stared at them, completely stunned. Even now, Camille was the one they worried about, the one they made excuses for. I'd spent my life being the responsible daughter, the steady one, the one who wouldn't cause trouble. And my reward? This betrayal met with a shrug. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't cause a scene. I wouldn't beg for explanations. I would simply disappear. By morning, my essentials were packed, a chunk of our joint account withdrawn, leaving Elijah more than his fair share, and a one-way ticket booked. No goodbyes, just absence. As the plane took off, I looked out the window, a new thought forming. They thought I'd disappear in silence. They had no idea silence was the start of reinvention. 6 months later, a thick cream envelope arrived. "Camille Walker and Elijah Bennett cordially invite you." A sticky note in Camille's looping handwriting read, "Hope you're over it by now. Would love to have you there." I ran my fingers over the expensive paper. Not rage, but a strange, detached curiosity. Who were these people to me now? More importantly, who was I to them? I RSVP'd yes with a brief note. Wouldn't miss it. Nova Scotia welcomed me with gray skies and a relentless rhythm of the waves. Blue Harbor, a small fishing town, was exactly what I needed. Here, I wasn't Elijah's fiancée or Camille's sister. I was just Sarah Walker, the quiet American who rented the cottage at the end of Lighthouse Road. For 2 months, I barely spoke. I walked the windswept beaches, letting the salt air scour away my old life, trying to find the artist I'd been before I'd set aside my creative dreams for a practical existence. It was on one of those walks that I found them. Lennox Vale sculptures. Massive driftwood and metal creations, rising from the beach like ancient sentinels. I stood transfixed, feeling something stir inside me, something that had been dormant for too long. "They're not for sale, if that's what you're wondering," a voice rumbled behind me. I turned to see a tall, weathered man, silver hair whipped by the wind, piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through me. "I wasn't looking to buy," I replied, "just feeling." Something shifted in his expression, the barest hint of interest. "And what do they make you feel?" I considered it, like something broken can become something powerful. He nodded once, then walked away without another word. The cafe owner later told me I'd met Lennox Vale, a celebrated London artist, exiled after a scandal, now creating his masterpieces in solitude. A week later, I found myself at the dirt road leading to his isolated studio. I wasn't sure why, only that our encounter had awakened something vital. "Come to feel again?" he asked, finding me outside his workshop. "I came to learn," I answered. He studied me. "I don't take students." "I'm not asking to be a student," I countered. "I'm asking to be an apprentice." That distinction seemed to interest him. "What's the difference?" "A student expects to be taught. An apprentice expects to work." 3 days later, I began working for Lennox. The arrangement was simple. I'd assist, learn by observation and practice, not instruction. He rarely spoke, but when he did, it was usually to point out a flaw or suggest a different approach. He never asked about my past. I never volunteered it. The work was physically demanding, hauling driftwood, sanding rough edges, learning to weld. My hands grew calloused, my arms stronger. At night, I collapsed into exhausted sleep, too tired to even dream of Elijah or Camille. Months passed. Slowly, Lennox allowed me more freedom. First to assist, then to create small pieces of my own. Each sculpture became an emotional excavation, a memorial to who I was, who I had been, who I might become. "You're hiding from something," Lennox observed one evening on his porch. I didn't deny it. Aren't you? I shot back. He laughed, a rusty sound rarely heard. Touché, apprentice. 2 years into my apprenticeship, a sleek black car pulled up. The driver, Cole Rayner, was tall, dark-haired with a touch of gray at the temples. He moved with an easy confidence, like someone accustomed to dangerous situations, yet nothing about him screamed violence. Mr. Vale has a stolen art situation, he explained. I've been hired to advise. Apparently, one of Lennox's early sculptures had resurfaced in Dubai, thought to be destroyed decades ago. Cole was the man to navigate the murky waters of international art theft. For 3 weeks, Cole came and went, his presence a quiet disruption. He spoke little but observed everything. Unlike others, Lennox's gruff manner didn't faze him. One evening, I found Cole studying one of my sculptures, a twisted spiral of metal and wood that represented my tangled relationship with Camille. This one's yours, he said, not a question. I nodded. You're watchful, he observed. Not shy like people probably think. Just watchful. That assessment startled me. Most people in Blue Harbor saw me as timid. Cole had seen through it. What are you watching for? He asked. I'm not watching for anything, I replied. I'm just present. His slight, genuine smile told me he understood. That's rarer than you'd think. After the art dispute was resolved, Cole continued to visit. We fell into an easy friendship, hiking, dining, talking about everything except our pasts. He never pushed, and I returned the favor. He traveled extensively, his work vague. Security consulting, he'd say, with a look that discouraged questions. He'd disappear for weeks, months, then reappear as if he'd never left. It wasn't immediately romantic. There was attraction, yes, but we circled it cautiously like weary animals. Then, he vanished for 6 months, not a word. I told myself it was the nature of our undefined relationship. But I found myself watching the road more often, hoping to see his car. When he finally returned, it was autumn. I was gathering driftwood when I sensed his presence. You're back, I said without turning. I'm back, he confirmed, coming to stand beside me. For how long? That depends, he replied. I finally looked at him. On what? On whether you're going to that wedding. I blinked, surprised. What wedding? The one you keep the invitation for, in your drawer, under your sketchbooks. I should have been disturbed by his knowledge, but instead I felt a strange relief. How did he know? I notice things. It's what I do. We stood in silence, watching the waves. I'll go with you, he said finally. If you want. If you're ready. The offer hung, simple, direct, uncluttered. Yes, I said after a long moment. But it's not war, he raised an eyebrow. It's just archaeology, I corrected. Digging up the past, understanding it, then burying it properly. That night, for the first time, Cole stayed. As we lay together, I still didn't tell him about Camille or Elijah. Some excavations I realized needed to be done alone. The flight back to my hometown felt like traveling backward in time. With each mile, my past self stirred, whispering old insecurities. Cole sat beside me, reading, occasionally brushing his hand against mine, a silent reminder of who I was now, not then. He carried himself with effortless power, not flashy but unshakable. His quiet confidence drew glances, yet his attention was entirely on his book or me. You okay? He asked as we descended. Fine, I replied automatically. He closed his book. Try again. I smiled, nervous but ready. My phone buzzed. A text from Camille. OMG, you're actually coming. Didn't know you were still alive. So dramatic. Can't wait to meet your little date. Cole glanced at the message, saying nothing. He didn't need to. The dismissive tone, the infantilizing language, pure Camille. My parents insisted we stay at their house. To catch up properly, my mother had chirped, her voice strained. As we pulled into the driveway, my shoulders tightened. We can still get a hotel, Cole murmured. I shook my head. No, I need to do this. My mother appeared, arms outstretched, embracing me with the enthusiastic affection of someone performing for an audience. My father hung back an awkward smile. "And you must be Cole," my mother continued, turning to him. "We've heard. Well, actually we haven't heard anything about you. Sarah's been so mysterious." "A pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Walker," Cole replied, his tone warm but measured. Inside, the house was just as I remembered. The floral prints, the family photos. I noticed my graduation picture had been moved. Camille's modeling headshot now dominated the mantel. My father cleared his throat. "Camille and Elijah are coming for dinner. Thought it would be good for everyone to reconnect before the wedding." Cole's hand found the small of my back, steady, grounding. "That sounds perfect," I said, surprised by how calm I felt. 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. I heard Camille's familiar, practiced laugh echoing through the house. I took a deep breath, staring at my reflection. The woman looking back was not the same one who had fled 3 years ago. My hair was shorter, my posture straighter, my eyes held a certainty that had been missing. When I descended, conversation in the living room ceased. Camille, champagne flute in hand, wore a designer dress. Beside her, Elijah, handsome, but I now saw the calculated charm, the slight insincerity in his eyes. "Sarah," Camille trilled, rushing to air-kiss my cheeks. "You look different. Healthy." The backhanded compliment hung in the air. Elijah nodded awkwardly. "You remember Elijah?" Camille continued, linking her arm through his possessively. "Of course," I replied with a small smile. "Congratulations to you both." Before they could respond, Cole appeared at my side, his hand finding mine with casual intimacy. "Cole Rayner," he introduced himself, extending his free hand to Elijah, then Camille. I watched recognition flicker in Elijah's eyes, not of Cole personally, but of something important about him. Dinner was an exercise in practiced civility. My mother fluttered, filling silences. My father focused on his plate. Camille, as always, dominated, detailing wedding plans. Elijah's business success, their new house. "Elijah is being considered for partner at Winters and Brookstone," she announced, squeezing his arm. "The youngest ever, potentially." "Winters and Brookstone," Cole repeated, speaking for the first time. "Good firm. International clients." Elijah straightened. "You're familiar with them?" Cole nodded, taking a sip of wine. "I've crossed paths with their security division. Small world." Something in his tone made Elijah shift uncomfortably. Camille, sensing the change, quickly redirected. "So, Sarah, what exactly do you do now? Mom mentioned something about art." She said art like it was vaguely embarrassing. "I'm a sculptor," I replied. "I work primarily in metal and reclaimed materials." "How creative," Camille said with a tight smile. "Any exhibitions?" "Sales." "A few," I answered. "I'm showing in Berlin next month." The simple statement landed like a stone in still water. Surprise in my parents' eyes. Reassessment in Elijah's. A momentary falter in Camille's smile. "Berlin," my father repeated. "That's significant." I nodded, not elaborating. Let them wonder. Let them ask. I was done volunteering information to fill uncomfortable silences. After dinner, while my mother and Camille discussed wedding details and my father showed Cole his fishing lures, Elijah cornered me in the kitchen. "You look good, Sarah." "Really good," he said quietly. I loaded plates into the dishwasher, not looking at him. "Thank you. Are you happy with him?" Now I looked up, studying the man I'd once planned to marry. Genuine curiosity, maybe even regret, in his expression. "I'm happy with myself," I replied. "Cole is a bonus, not a requirement." Elijah blinked, clearly not expecting that. "I didn't mean to hurt you back then," he said. "But you did," I answered, closing the dishwasher and turning to face him fully. "You and Camille both. The difference is, I'm grateful for it now." "Grateful?" He looked confused. I smiled, feeling the profound truth of what I was about to say. I finally sculpted something worth keeping. Me. Later that night, in the quiet guest room, Cole handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Information," he replied. "You can use it or not. Your choice." Inside were photos. Camille and Elijah at meetings with men I didn't recognize, documents exchanging hands, money changing hands. The final photo showed Elijah shaking hands with a man recently in the news, arrested for financial fraud. "How did you get these?" I asked, though I suspected I knew. "One of my surveillance targets had interesting connections," Cole said. "I recognized your ex from the wedding invitation. Did some digging." I spread the photos on the bed, taking in their implications. With these, I could derail their perfect life, his career, their social standing. "Use it or don't," Cole said, watching me carefully. "I came for you, not for games." I gathered the photos, considered them, then walked to the small fireplace. One by one, I fed them to the flames. "She needs to see me win," I said, watching them curl and blacken, not fall. Cole nodded, understanding in his eyes. He pulled me close, pressing his lips to my forehead. "That's why I'm here." As the last photo turned to ash, I felt lighter. Tomorrow would be their day of triumph. But for the first time, I wasn't dreading it. I was curious to see how it would unfold now that I was no longer the woman they thought they knew. The wedding morning arrived with perfect blue skies. I stood at the guest room window, watching workers set up in my parents' backyard. I'd slept surprisingly well. Cole was already up, a note on his pillow, "Coffee. Back soon." As I got ready, Camille's texts buzzed. "Make sure you're not late. Don't wear anything too bright. Are you bringing that guy? Mom says he's intense." I smiled. Cole was intense, but in a contained way. His presence commanded respect. The bridal suite was a flurry of activity. Camille sat before a mirror, a stylist working on her elaborate updo. "Sarah, finally!" She spotted me in the reflection. "Everyone, this is my sister. She's been away." The way she said it made it sound like rehab, not rebirth. I endured polite smiles from bridesmaids, then embraced Julie, an old friend caught in Camille's orbit. "You look amazing," Julie whispered, holding the hug a beat longer than necessary. For 3 hours, I played my part, holding bouquets, fetching water. Camille's nervous chatter grew. "I wasn't sure you'd actually come," she said, during a rare moment alone. After everything, I met her eyes in the mirror. I said I would. "Yes, but..." She trailed off, fiddling with a hairpin. "You disappeared so completely. Mom was worried." "Was she?" I asked mildly. "She never called." Camille turned to face me. "You never gave us a chance to make things right." "There was nothing to make right, Camille. You and Elijah made your choice. I made mine. And now you're back with him." Her tone suggested Cole was some oddity. "He's not exactly your usual type." I smiled. "That's the point." By early afternoon, I was dressed in a deep navy satin gown. Not bridal white, not vengeful red, but regal, understated. My makeup minimal, my hair a simple, elegant low knot. When I stepped out of the bathroom, Camille froze mid-sentence, champagne glass halfway to her lips. For a moment, her confidence wavered. "You look surprisingly decent," she recovered, but the slight falter in her voice was telling. "Thank you," I replied simply. "You look beautiful, Camille. Truly." And she did. Her dress a masterpiece, her makeup flawless. Yet something in her eyes seemed unsettled. "I should check on the guests," I said, excusing myself from the increasingly tense atmosphere. Outside, the ceremony space was picture perfect. White chairs, rose petals, a floral arch. Guests arrived, elegant, hushed. I spotted Cole immediately, a phantom in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, both unassuming and unmissable. When he saw me, his expression softened. "Everything okay?" he asked as I approached. "Perfect," I assured him, taking his offered arm. Shall we find our seats? As we moved, I noticed heads turning, whispers. Is that Cole Rayner from the Intelligence Leaks trial? Testified before Congress. Security consultant, too. I glanced at Cole. You didn't mention you were famous. Not famous, he corrected. Just known in certain circles. Before I could press further, Elijah appeared, looking handsome but ill at ease. He hesitated, then approached with a fixed smile. Sarah, good to see you again, he said, kissing my cheek awkwardly. And Mr. Rayner, I didn't realize yesterday you're consulting for Winters and Brookstone now. Cole nodded once, among others. The implication hung in the air. Winters and Brookstone, the firm where Elijah hoped to make partner. Cole's connection was clearly significant. Small world, Elijah said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. If you'll excuse me, I should check on some things. He walked away, too quickly to appear casual. What was that about? I asked Cole. His expression gave nothing away. Just business. The ceremony was set for 4 o'clock. As guests took their seats, Julie found me. You have no idea how often she still compares herself to you, she whispered. Even now, your art, your independence, your choices. She nodded toward Cole. She tracks your gallery showings, you know. Has Google alerts for your name. Before I could respond, music swelled, signaling the ceremony. Camille appeared on my father's arm, radiant in the traditional sense. But when it came time to exchange vows, she stumbled over her words. She paused, swallowed, started again. Her eyes darted to where I sat with Cole, then back to Elijah. I promised to. She faltered again, her composure cracking. Elijah leaned in, whispering. Camille nodded, took a deep breath, and continued, but the perfect facade had slipped. I kept my expression neutral. This wasn't about humiliating her. It was about standing in my truth. At the reception, Cole and I moved with easy grace. He rarely left my side, his hand subtly finding mine or the small of my back. Dance with me, Cole said as the band played. On the dance floor, he held me close. You're doing well, he murmured against my hair. It's easier than I expected, I admitted, because you're not the same person who left. Over his shoulder, I saw Camille and Elijah dancing nearby, her eyes finding mine. A question passed between us. When the time came for toasts, I was surprised to hear my name. A test, perhaps. I rose, champagne glass in hand, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. The room fell silent. What would the betrayed sister say? To Camille and Elijah, I began, my voice steady. Life takes us on unexpected journeys. Sometimes the paths we think we should walk aren't the ones meant for us. I paused, meeting first Elijah's eyes, then Camille's. I wish you both a journey of growth, of discovery and of truth. To love that teaches and to loss that reveals. Simple, sincere, and utterly disarming. I saw confusion in Camille's eyes. She'd expected resentment or false cheer. My genuine well wishes seemed to unsettle her more. As the evening progressed, I found myself enjoying the celebration. I danced with my father, chatted with old acquaintances, accepted compliments on my mysterious new life. Cole remained a steady presence, charming when necessary, never seeking the spotlight. Near midnight, I stepped outside for a moment of quiet, walking through the moonlit garden. Running away again. I turned to find Camille, her wedding dress ghostly in the moonlight, her veil removed. A few strands escaped from her perfect updo. Just getting some air, I replied. She moved closer. You've changed. People do, I said. You don't like this. She gestured vaguely at me. You were always so predictable, reliable, boring even. I smiled. Perhaps she never really knew me. And he does. Her tone sharpened. Cole sees me, I said simply. But more importantly, I see myself now. Camille stepped closer, something desperate flashing in her eyes. You think you've won, don't you? Coming here with him, looking like this, acting like nothing matters. I studied my sister, beautiful, accomplished, newly married, yet still unsatisfied, still competing against a ghost of me that had never existed. I'm not playing, Camille, I said softly. That's what you don't understand. There's no game, no score, no winning or losing. There's just life moving forward. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. For perhaps the first time since we were children, Camille had no ready response. You should get back, I suggested gently. It's your wedding night. Your husband will be looking for you. She lingered a moment longer, searching my face for resentment or weakness. Finding neither, she finally turned and walked away, the train of her dress trailing like a surrendered flag. The next morning, Cole and I checked out of my parents' house. We planned to stay 3 more days, then return to Nova Scotia. Breakfast. Cole suggested, already dressed. You're up early. Old habits, he said, setting his phone down. Your pictures in the society pages. Local celebrity returns with mysterious date. I groaned. Small town memories. He showed me the candid photo, a caption mentioning my return and identifying Cole simply as security consultant Cole Rayner, whose testimony during last year's intelligence leaks trial made international headlines. You never told me about that, I said, studying his face. He shrugged. It wasn't relevant to us. And now? Now it might be, he admitted. The photo will circulate. People will talk. Your sister won't like it. Over the next 2 days, I understood. My phone buzzed with old acquaintances, suddenly eager to reconnect. My mother called, fishing for information about Cole. Even my father asked pointed questions. Meanwhile, Camille's social media went silent. No wedding photos, no honeymoon updates. Unusual for someone who documented every achievement. On our 3rd day, Cole showed me a news alert. Elijah's name appeared in a financial bulletin. The partnership position at Winters and Brookstone had been filled by someone else. Did you do that? I asked quietly. Cole shook his head. I didn't need to. When they saw him with me at the wedding, they would have run additional checks. His own record speaks for itself. I considered this, feeling strangely detached. Camille would be devastated. She'd already told everyone it was a sure thing. Actions have consequences, Cole replied simply. Later that afternoon, my mother called again, her voice tight with controlled panic. Did you hear about the Lakeside Heights development? The one Camille and Elijah put a deposit on. I hadn't, but I guessed. The whole thing collapsed. Some scandal with the property appraisals being falsified. They'll get their deposit back. But the house, the neighborhood, it was supposed to be the most exclusive new development. I murmured sympathies, but felt unmoved. Camille and Elijah would land on their feet. They always did. These were setbacks, not tragedies. That evening, as Cole and I packed, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Sarah Walker, a crisp professional voice said, "This is Martina Voss from the European Arts Foundation. We've been following your work with Lennox Vale, and we're particularly interested in your solo pieces. We'd like to offer you a teaching position at our sculpture residency in Athens. 6 months initially, with the possibility of extension." I sat down slowly. "I'm sorry. How did you find me?" "Your mentor, Mr. Vale, forwarded your portfolio. He's quite selective with his recommendations." She paused. "It's quite a prestigious opportunity, Miss Walker." After the call, I sat in stunned silence. Lennox, who barely spoke 2 sentences most days, had been watching me more closely than I'd realized. "Good news?" Cole asked, emerging from the bathroom. "Life-changing news," I replied, and told him about the offer. He nodded, unsurprised. "You should take it. It's in Athens for at least 6 months." "I know where Athens is," he said, a smile touching his eyes. "The question is, do you want it?" Did I? 3 years ago, I'd fled my hometown with no plan. Now, I was being offered a chance to teach at a prestigious European residency, to share what I'd learned, to continue growing as an artist. Yes, I said firmly. I want it. The next morning, before the airport, I made one last stop at my childhood home. My parents were out. I left a note. I walked through the familiar rooms, touching banisters, reacquainting myself with a past that no longer held power over me. In my old bedroom, now an office, I placed a small bronze sculpture on the desk. A bird in flight, one of my earliest successful pieces. In the backyard, I stood beneath the oak tree where Elijah had proposed. 3 years ago, this spot had represented everything I thought I wanted. Now it was just a tree, beautiful, but holding no special power. I was about to leave when a car pulled into the driveway. Camille's white SUV. She emerged, uncharacteristically disheveled, eyes red-rimmed behind large sunglasses. "You're still here," she said, surprised to find me. "Just leaving, actually. Flights in a few hours." She hovered by the garden gate. "Back to wherever it is you live now." "Nova Scotia, but not for long. I've been offered a teaching position in Athens, Greece." Her eyebrows rose above her sunglasses. "That's far." "It's an opportunity." She stepped closer, removing her sunglasses. Her eyes were definitely swollen from crying. "Everything's falling apart, Sarah. The partnership, the house. It's like someone's sabotaging us." I shook my head. "No one's sabotaging you, Camille. Life just doesn't always go according to plan." "Easy for you to say. Your life seems pretty perfect right now." I laughed softly. 3 years ago, I was alone in a strange town, working as a coffee shop barista, trying to figure out who I was without my fiancé, without my sister, without my family's expectations. It wasn't perfect. It was necessary. Camille stared at me for a long moment. "Can't we just start over? As sisters? Can't we try to fix this?" The plea seemed genuine, but I'd learned to look deeper. Was she reaching out because she missed our relationship, or because her carefully constructed life was showing cracks? Did it matter? I stepped forward and embraced her. Our first real hug in years. "This was me starting over," I whispered to myself. As I pulled away, I saw confusion in her eyes, then a slow dawn of understanding. I wasn't rejecting her. I was releasing us both from the patterns that had defined our relationship. "I'll call you from Athens," I promised, not entirely sure if I would. At the airport, Cole was waiting. "Everything okay?" "Everything's as it should be," I replied. "Your sister will survive. She always does." As we walked toward security, Cole surprised me. "I won't ask you to stay." I glanced at him. "I know. But I will say that Athens has excellent coffee shops." I smiled, understanding his meaning. "Are you saying you'll meet me there?" He shook his head. "I don't make those. But I will say, I'll meet you in Athens." As our plane took off, I watched my hometown shrink beneath us. Not triumph, not regret. Just a peaceful sense of completion. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my small apartment in Athens, watching the morning light paint the ancient city gold. My teaching position at the residency was deeply satisfying. 3 days a week, I worked with young artists. The other days, I worked on my own pieces in a small studio near the Acropolis. My work had taken on a new dimension, influenced by ancient art, Mediterranean light, the rhythm of a city where old and new existed in constant conversation. Cole and I lived separately but often together. His work still took him around the world, but he always returned to Athens, to me. We maintained our own spaces, our own routines, finding freedom in the lack of traditional expectations. "No marriage, no labels," he'd said once, "just truth." And it was true. Truer than anything I'd experienced before. When we were together, we were fully present. When apart, we were complete in ourselves. It wasn't a relationship built on need, but on choice and mutual respect. I hadn't heard from Camille in months. After a flurry of texts alternating between apologies and accusations, she'd fallen silent. Through my mother, I learned she and Elijah had moved to a smaller house, and he'd taken a position at a less prestigious firm. Their perfect life had adjusted to reality. Then one morning, an email appeared from an unfamiliar address, elijah.bennett@gmail.com. I tell people I lost a sister to art, it read. It sounds poetic that way. Less humiliating than the truth. No greeting, no signature. I didn't respond. A week later, I noticed Elijah's name in a financial newsletter Cole sometimes read, a minor mention in an audit investigation. Nothing criminal, just questionable judgment. A footnote in someone else's story. In early spring, my sculpture was displayed at a gallery in Berlin. A large piece combining bronze, stone, and reclaimed wood, depicting two female forms, not quite embracing, not quite fighting, but inexorably connected. Critics called it bleeding restraint and hauntingly familiar. At the opening, a young German art student asked what had inspired it. A wedding invitation, I replied honestly, and a man with no shadow. She tilted her head. The figures, they are sisters? I smiled. They are what you see in them. Cole attended anonymously, watching from the periphery, his habit. He never sought my spotlight. Later, I found a note slipped under my hotel room door. Still not playing, just living. I carried those words back to Athens, where spring turned the city lush. At the residency, a new group of students arrived, including Sophie. Your work has such confidence, I told her during our first session, but also vulnerability. She shrugged, eyes downcast. My family thinks I'm wasting my time. Art isn't a real career. I recognized that look, fierce determination overlaying deep uncertainty. The same eyes I'd had the day I left everything behind. What does your art give you that nothing else does? I asked. She considered it. A voice that's just mine. Not my parents, not my teachers, not my friends. Just mine. Then it's already serving its purpose, I told her. Everything else is secondary. On a warm evening in late May, I walked alone through the Acropolis Museum. My footsteps echoed in the nearly empty galleries. I wasn't lonely, just alone. Full. Complete in myself. In a way I couldn't have imagined 3 years earlier, when my identity had been so wrapped up in being Elijah's fiancée, Camille's sister, my parents' daughter. My phone buzzed with a text from Cole. Back tomorrow. Dinner at Alice's. I smiled, typing, perfect. As I continued through the museum, I found myself in a gallery of ancient female sculptures. Goddesses, priestesses, ordinary women immortalized in marble. They'd survived centuries, some damaged, some nearly perfect, but all enduring. I thought about the women I'd been. The beautiful daughter, the betrayed fiancée, the apprentice, the artist, the teacher. None of them gone. All part of who I'd become. Not disappearing, but continually arriving. Outside, Athens spread before me in the gathering dusk. Ancient monuments illuminated against the deepening blue sky. I took a deep breath of the warm air, scented with jasmine. They said I disappeared. What they didn't know was I was finally arriving.